All right, thank you, everybody. We'll jump right into it. First of all, any, if maybe just for the record, we could state any known absences, Hannah.
Yes, Kaya will not be here, and Dan Clever is running late.
Great, thank you. If anyone would be willing to read the equity and land acknowledgement, that'd be great. If anyone's willing to volunteer for that.
I'll read it, Suzanne.
Thanks, Susan. Thank you. Go ahead.
No problem. So we, as the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, want to begin this meeting by affirming BPAC's commitment to equity and racial justice. We would like to acknowledge that this meeting is being held on lands that have served as the home for diverse Indigenous communities long before current governments were established here. We pay our respect to the elders and members of these communities, both past and present, and recognize the harms of genocide and colonialism. We will make a conscious effort to reflect on the following questions as we advance through our business and contemplate changes in our community. And we recognize that achieving equity requires our commitment to an ongoing process. How can we seek to repair harm with our work and not erase history? How does our work impact the vulnerability and safety of people who hold many intersection marginalized identities, including Black, Indigenous, and people of color, people with disabilities, and lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and questioning people? How can we prioritize and center people in our decision-making? How can we be more responsive to local needs? How can our work build community power and shared decision-making? And that's it.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. So, first I'll ask, well, I think we'll do a sort of a roll call and just maybe do some introductions here, but maybe Hannah, you can get us started with update on new members and the situation of the openings.
Yes, so Sharice is joined with us today. She is new. She took over the county at large position. And so welcome. I'm excited to have you on BPAC. And then if you want to,
thank you so much.
Introduce yourself or.
Oh, sure. Excuse me. I was not prepared. I'm sorry. I have COVID right now, so I'm looking like COVID. I'm very happy to be here. I've been actually trying to get on this committee since 2013 when I first moved here. Excuse me. So I'll just keep it short and simple. Glad to be here and happy to meet you all virtually.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a tough, gosh. Yeah, you don't have to, don't feel like you have to speak for very long at all.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other updates on the openings, Hannah?
We do have a new member that was appointed today. Actually, they haven't been sworn in yet, but it is a NCCU representative. So they'll be starting whenever they get sworn in. So I'm assuming the next meeting will be their first.
Great. Thank you. Maybe we could do just a quick run through, just 2 sentences, your name for each of us, maybe how long you've been on the BPAC, and if you're on any subcommittees or any roles that you perform, just so that we give, and let me know, I think we talked about this, is it Sheris? Is that the way to pronounce your name?
Yes, you got it. Sheris like Paris.
Sheris like Paris, great. So let's do a quick run through. I think we'll do it again probably next month, hopefully when the new members come as well, but it'll be good to just get everybody's at least names out there. I'll start with myself and I'll call each of us. My name is Dennis Idemir. I joined BPAC 2 years ago pretty much now. I grew up in Durham, and so I've moved away, and I've been back now for about a year, about those 2 years. And I'm currently the chair. Hannah?
Hi there. So I'm Hannah Reynolds. I am the staff liaison for BPAC. I started in this role in January, so only a couple of months now. And I'm learning quickly, but there's a lot still to learn. So thank you all for being patient with me.
Thanks, Hannah. Ed Rizzuto.
Hi, I'm Ed Rizzuto. I'm the vice chair of BPAC. I've been with the commission since 2018, so just about 5 years now. I live in the north part of Durham. Been here almost 8 years now. We moved here with my family from Northern California 8 years ago.
Michael Mormon.
Hi, my name is Michael Mormon. I have actually been on for 6 years. I rotate off this summer. And I am the chair for the Plan Implementation and Evaluation Subcommittee.
Scott Carter.
Yes, hi, I'm Scott Carter, and I've been on BPAC since last summer, and I'm on the DevRev and PI subcommittees.
Brian Hawkins.
Hi, welcome, Sheriff. I'm Brian. I've been on BPAC since last August. I've lived in Durham since 2006 with a short break in the middle, and I'm involved with the DevRev and PI committees.
Ideal.
Why does the mute button get harder and harder to find?
Yeah.
My name is Ideal Ortiz. I don't remember, Hannah, how long I've been on BPAC. But I was the former secretary. I'm an honorary alum member of Triple E committee. It's nice to see y'all.
Mike Shepard.
Mike Shepard, been here, been on for 2 years now. My camera is not working, so I apologize. I don't know what's wrong with that, but I promise you I'm here taking notes as the new secretary
Thanks, Mike.
on Triple E.
Tyler Dewey.
Hello, I'm Tyler Dewey. I'm the Duke liaison and a member of Triple E committee, and I have been on BPAC for around 2 years, certainly for 2 board retreats.
Suzanne.
Hi, good evening and welcome, Sheriff, and thanks for your persistence and patience. That's a long time to want to get on a committee, so we are so glad you're here, and I'm sure you bring along a lot of perspective and expertise. So thanks for your for being here with us tonight, and look forward to getting to know you better. I'm Suzanne Schmall. I'm previous chair. I've been helping to coordinate the Triple E for quite some time. Oh, Ideal's funny. And we are looking for a new person. So Sheriff, if you're interested in Triple E, we would love to have you come and join us as well, and maybe even help facilitate and lead that meeting. Because some of us, I've been on for about 5 years, and I think I'll be booted off of here officially probably in another year, but I'll probably still keep coming back unofficially. So welcome, thanks.
Thanks, Suzanne. Heidi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heidi Carter. I'm a county commissioner, and I am the liaison to BPAC and have been since 2016. And thanks to you all for your work. You're very devoted and you do a lot of volunteer work for the city and the county. It's really greatly appreciated.
Thanks, Heidi. Dan.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Hi, everyone. My name is Dan Clever, and I've been on BPAC a long time. Not as long as Ideal, but I can't keep track of it myself either. If I want to say 5 years, something in that territory. But I'm also the chair of the Development Review Subcommittee, and we often have I guess meetings with the PI committee that Mike discussed. And welcome, everybody.
Thanks. And Cesar.
Hi, good afternoon. Good evening, Cesar Castro. Been here for about a year with BPAC. Yeah, and so happy to have someone else new join.
And Brian, maybe you can just give us a quick intro and before we move to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Taylor. I'm a transportation planner in the City of Durham's Transportation Department, and I will be talking to you in just a moment about traffic calming.
Thank you, Brian. All right, I think that's everybody. If anyone on the is not a panelist but wants to introduce themselves, they can feel free to using the Q&A, I think is how we do that these days. But thanks for being here, and thanks, Cheris. Let us know if you have questions and feel free to drop them in the chat as we go along. So I guess let's move through the next stuff here. Adjustments to the agenda. Are there any adjustments that anyone wants to mention up front? Going once. Okay. Nothing from me either. Then hopefully you all had a chance to look at the meeting minutes from last month, from February. And are there any notes or adjustments that anyone has for the meeting minutes? And if not, could we get a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Can we get a second?
Scott Carter, a second.
Thank you. All right, all in favor of approving the February minutes?
Aye.
Aye, seeing ayes. Great. All opposed? Not hearing, seeing anything. All right. Okay, great. And let's move to the public comments. First, I know we have a few attendees here. If you all had any public comments you wanted to bring up, feel free to mention them in the Q&A. I'll make sort of just a note because it's kind of related to public comments. I just want to say, at least on my own behalf and on the behalf of BPAC in general, thank you to everybody who went to the event yesterday. And then also, hopefully you all had a chance. Ideal, thank you for sending the link. Hopefully you all had a chance to see the public comments that were made at the budget hearing yesterday. That was, yeah, it was moving to hear that and see that on the YouTube recording. And I think hopefully even those of us like myself who couldn't make it, hopefully you all had a chance to sign the petition or participate in other ways. So thank you to all of you for that. In fact, while Javier, we have you here, we have a new member, Cheris, who joined us. Maybe you can do a quick introduction of your role with regards to BPAC.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am the Durham City Council member liaison to BPAC. I am here to help you all advocate for the needs that you have with the city. And welcome, Cherise.
Thank you.
Thank you. I
Javier.
appreciate it. Very warm welcome.
Thanks. Thanks, Javier. Okay, so I'm not seeing any public comments. I'll wait one more moment. Okay, I think then Brian, we'll very excited for this this topic, traffic calming, very relevant to what was discussed yesterday. We do have one. Do we have one raised hand at the attendees? Sorry.
I did notice that one of the attendees, Robin Young, is in the transportation department, and I might rely on her to ask some questions or answer some questions rather about speed humps.
Okay, let me take a look, make sure I'm not. Okay. Okay, no problem. Accidental hand raise, that's no problem. Maybe I don't have control over who we can promote, I don't think. So maybe Hannah, you could just promote Robin to a panelist.
Okay, I will.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, Brian. Go ahead and take it away.
The moment I'm always using Teams, so I have to figure out how to use Zoom every time again. But no worries. I think this will work. Let's see.
Looks good to me.
How do I put this in presentation mode? Did that work?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about traffic calming today. That's going to involve looking at some of the streets we're talking about when we are talking about neighborhood traffic calming. We'll look at some traffic calming measures and some examples, some in Durham, some elsewhere. Look at our current traffic calming policies and projects, and also look at some future traffic calming that we may be doing, whether that be a plan, a policy, or a project, or just an idea. Sort of outline I just laid out there. In terms of the streets we are evaluating for traffic calming, we're talking about traffic calming measures. The vast majority of those are applications on local city maintained streets, and those are shown in blue here on our on this map. There's a more limited number that are appropriate on city collector streets, so they're a bit larger. Those are shown in yellow on the map. And then a more limited number of traffic calming measures that may be used on arterials. We don't really have that many that are maintained by the city, but North Miami Boulevard is one, for example. Club is another. And then traffic calming measures are possible on some state streets, but the number of measures available to us there is also very limited and also requires NCDOT approval. So most of the traffic calming measures we talk about tonight are ones that would be applicable on local city streets. And another important distinction to make is whether city streets are on a transit route or not, and whether they are emergency routes. Speed humps are not permitted on transit routes or on emergency routes. There are some other traffic calming measures, however, we will talk about tonight that are permitted. I feel like my slides are automatically advancing, like I'm doing Pechacucha or something. Traffic calming measures, I'm going to look at resources. Yeah, I need to figure out how to stop that. Great. Maybe that worked. Looking at traffic calming measures, I'm going to cover some of the resources and guides that I used to put this presentation together in terms of some of the examples, and I've divided that into vertical speed control measures and horizontal speed control measures, and I'll tell you in just a moment what that means. Our primary resource we think about traffic calming in Durham right now is the City of Durham traffic calming guidelines. There are a number of different traffic calming measures. Still doing it. Maybe I'm going to exit out of that and maybe just let me try it again. Oh, that didn't work. Where was I?
You could always keep it maybe in the other view.
Yeah, if people can see that, I might have to just do that if that works.
It looks okay for me, but if it's too small.
You can get rid of the top bar if you go on the right and click up that little piece. That might make it bigger, but it looks good.
I really just never had this issue before in Zoom, so I'm assuming it would just go away, but I'll try this for a while if we'll see if it's legible. It might be, given everyone's staring at computer screens and this isn't projected on this on the screen. This is the City of Durham traffic calming guidelines document. I think it was drafted in 2017. There are a lot of different traffic calming measures shown here, divided into low cost and high cost. I also relied on a wider number of resources here. The FHW traffic calming e-primer is a really great resource to learn about different types of traffic calming and where they are appropriate. Also, the NACTO Urban Street Design Guide and the NACTO Urban Bikeway Design Guide are also two really great resources that I rely on in this presentation. As I mentioned earlier, in a lot of cases, we divide traffic calming into horizontal speed control measures and vertical speed control measures. Horizontal speed control measures are when we narrow a roadway to slow drivers down or require them to shift left or right to navigate a travelway and slow them down in that fashion. Vertical speed control measures are ones where there's a vertical raised area on a road that has a self-enforcing effect on speed, the speed of the driver. So speed humps and a number of different variations on speed humps. There's some other measures I won't really get to touch on today, but street trees is one of those. Another one is two-waying streets. Two-waying streets that were one-way streets. Vertical speed control measures, I'm going to touch on those first. As I mentioned, there are really just a lot of different variations on what most of us, on speed humps, which most of us are very familiar with. And they all have slightly different applications. There are about 750 speed humps in the city of Durham, according to Pete Nicholas's last estimate. They're about 3 to 4 inches tall and they have a length of about 12 feet. Sometimes they're longer. As I mentioned earlier, they are not suitable for emergency routes or transit routes. They're also not speed bumps. Those are the things you usually encounter in a parking lot, and they'd be very jarring to go over at 15 to 20 miles per hour. But speed humps generally will slow drivers down to those speeds when crossed. And there are very sort of specific requirements for these speed humps. You need a street with vehicles per day somewhere between 250 and 2,000, and speed humps are only considered on streets with a speed limit at or below 24 miles per hour. Speed cushions is the first variation we'll talk about. These have wheel cutouts for larger vehicles, specifically emergency vehicles and transit vehicles. So with these wheel cutouts, these allow speed humps. That allows us to use these speed humps on emergency routes and transit routes, which is not possible with speed humps. But speed cushions are not suitable on streets without curb and gutter, and neither are a lot of the horizontal traffic control measures we'll talk about later. This is the design of one that was recently installed on Belvin Avenue and Berwyn Avenue in Bragtown. That design on the right, and you can see on the left, there's an image where you can see that illustrates how wheel cutouts allow fire trucks to travel unimpeded through the speed cushion. Speed tables are longer than speed humps. They're flat topped. They're usually 22 feet long and can accommodate higher speeds. They also can be compatible with transit vehicles. They are less suitable than speed cushions on emergency routes, but can be used. The important thing to note here is that they can be used on streets without curb and gutter, and we definitely have a lot of streets without curb and gutter that need traffic calming and may be on primary emergency routes or on transit routes. Raised crosswalks are a type of speed table, and they are marked and signed as mid-block pedestrian crossings. We do have some examples of those in Durham, just north of Duke's East Campus. There were 2 raised crosswalks installed at that back in 2017. I think, based on my last conversation with Pete, and I think it was a partnership between the city and Duke to put those in. And then the city did go back and put in the rapid rectangular flashing beacons that you see. And they're also, these raised crosswalks or raised crosswalks in general are often combined with curb extensions that shorten the crossing. Okay, now I'm going to talk about some of the horizontal speed control measures.
Brian, can I ask you, this is Ed, if you don't mind, can you just describe what a raised crosswalk is?
Yeah, sorry, I'll go. So
Okay.
raised crosswalk is basically a speed table. So it's similar in that it will have a height of maybe 3 inches and a length of around 22 feet. And that's longer than a speed bump. It's mainly just a raised crosswalk of those dimensions, but then it's marked as a pedestrian crosswalk, and it's usually for a mid-block crossing area.
Okay.
And then it's often combined with signage, and then RFBs and perhaps curb extensions that might shorten the crossing distance on that raised crosswalk.
Thank you.
And so most people probably know Markham and driven over the ones there at Duke's East Campus, and it's evident that their well use there is very important because of all the pedestrian traffic on the campus from that location. Going into horizontal speed control measures, I'll start with curb extensions. All these measures are going to narrow roadway to slow drivers. Curb extensions can also slow drivers at turns because they tighten the curb radii. They also shorten crosswalks, and they make pedestrians more visible to drivers. Some examples I found, they can either be expensive or very cheap. There's a streetscape project in Old East Durham where curb extensions were installed on Driver and Andrew Street. And there's also a much cheaper version of curb extensions that were installed on Birch Avenue at Gaddis Street in 2021, I believe. That was also a partnership between the City of Durham Transportation Department, Duke University, and I think Bike Durham. And these are also referred to as bulb outs. And then there's a lot of different variations on curb extensions, and I'll touch on 1 or 2 of them here. One you may have seen, sometimes we can create curb extensions as edge islands, and this really just addresses a drainage issue that may exist. And so it creates a 1 to 2 foot gap from the curb to improve drainage. The examples I show here on Duke Street and Gregson Street, where they are crossed by Knox Street. So these are referred to, I think we refer to these as neck downs. In some of our in our guidance documents, and they are shortening the crossing distance here across Duke and Gregson, and they're making pedestrians more visible. They're probably not doing that much to limit vehicle speeds in this design. Chokers, also known as pinch points, is basically a curb extension at a mid-block location. Once again, we're narrowing the street to slow down drivers. And in this case, it's usually a width of only 18 feet to 12 feet, so that a driver has to slow to accommodate oncoming traffic. And in some cases, you can also have cut-through passageways on the outside to provide accommodation for bicyclists. And this example is from the NACTA Urban Bikeway Design Guide as an example of a tool that could be used on a bike boulevard. Chicanes use a series of curb extensions or parking bays that alternate from side to side of the street. So they create a S-shaped travelway that will slow down drivers. The examples I found, there's which I'm told by Pete is not at all a best practice, but that you may have seen, is on Markham Avenue between Duke Street and Gregson Street, where they use parking bays to slow down cars to limited effect, I believe. There's also speed humps on the street anyways. There is another version I found in Raleigh that was constructed in 2021 or 2020 through their traffic calming program to slow down cars between two much larger streets on opposite ends of Brentwood Road in Raleigh. Neighborhood traffic circles. A lot of you probably seen these two shown here. They're raised or delineated islands to provide counterclockwise traffic movement. They slow down drivers by narrowing turning radii and also narrowing the travel lane. Importantly, they can also reduce the severity of crashes by preventing head-on collisions. And they're often used at local street intersections with yielding crashes or a danger of yielding crashes. These landscaped traffic circles do have much higher maintenance costs and install costs. And they also require sufficient dimensions for an intersection and sufficient right of way. So there may be some intersections where there's not enough space for a traffic circle. Oh, let me go back. So the Knox Street and Watts Street one, I tried to find out when these were installed. I think there was a study done in the early aughts. I think it was mostly West Durham. And then a couple of years later, these neighborhood traffic circles were funded, but it was hard to find information on that, much on that, beyond what Bill and Pete could tell me. The Spruce Street and Eva Street traffic circle was, I think, put in place during in 2020 or 2021 as part of our shared streets program. And a lot of the future neighborhood traffic circles that you see that will be installed by the city of Durham will look more like that one. Just because they're easier to install and maintain. Medians can be placed almost anywhere. They have a limited effect on speeding, although if you plant street trees in the median, that would have an additional, would help reduce the speed of the vehicles. They also can prevent dangerous passing. And as seen here too, they can provide a refuge for pedestrians. One of the most common tools we use are road diets. So we usually use these to narrow or move a travel lane to accommodate bike lanes or parking. What this is also doing, though, importantly, is slowing down drivers by narrowing that lane. And the level of the speed reduction is naturally dependent on whether there's a high demand for parking, if we take away a travel lane to make it parking, or if we put vertical protection if we in the buffer for a bike lane. And we usually coordinate these road diets with our annual city or NCDOT street resurfacing efforts. And the example shown here is a road diet on Cornwallis Road that was coordinated with the NCDOT 2022 street resurfacing, where we went from 5 lanes to 3 lanes to accommodate buffered bike lanes. And we do intend to go back and install vertical protection in those buffers. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit about current traffic calming policies and projects now, starting with the traffic calming guidelines and looking at speed humps and then some other project types. There's a lot of different traffic calming measures listed in our traffic calming guidelines, but in practice, the ones that we build from year to year are speed humps, and any other type of project is really part of some independent project, really. This is evident from the fact that there's a 2-page policy on speed humps and on no other traffic measures. I know no one can read this here, so I've tried to summarize some of this. If you want to put a speed hump on your street, there are certain criteria your street will have to meet. It has to be a local street, can't be a transit route, can't be a thoroughfare. As I mentioned earlier, its speed limit needs to be 25 miles per hour under. There's also a traffic volume limit we talked about. And if you meet all those criteria, you have to fill out a petition with signatures of at least 75% of the property owners on your block. In addition to that, the transportation department, it will do an analysis and determine whether the 85th percentile speed exceeds the posted speed limit by 10 miles per hour. And that is one of the other criteria your street will need to meet in order to be eligible for speed humps. And then there's some other details on exceptions and funding availability, which become increasingly important if we look at other types of traffic calming measures. I tried to outline what that process is for a speed hump request, talking with Pete, and based on what's already on our website. We're really trying to direct everyone to Durham One Call to request speed humps. And then the transportation department will determine if the street meets the criteria in the speed hump policy that I referenced earlier. If your street does meet those criteria, speed hump petition is issued for your street. And if that petition is successful, it goes on to a list of eligible projects, and then transportation department staff will advance those projects to design and construction based on available funding. And I have an example here that Pete gave me today, recently completed speed hump projects with a total construction cost of $70,000. So there were 4 streets here. Some got 4 speed humps, some got 2, and also, which we'll talk about later, Swarthmore Road, there were 3 speed tables installed on Swarthmore. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the other types of projects we're starting to install on Durham city streets other than speed humps. So this is sort of a pilot project at this point. Speed cushions are not currently listed in our traffic calming guidelines. These were installed on Belvin Avenue and Berwyn Avenue. This is a primary emergency route in Bragtown. And I believe Leslie Tracy did test this design with the fire department, where they went into a parking lot and they had fire trucks run over rubber versions of these speed humps to see what the effect would be and whether the wheel cutouts were appropriately designed. Speed tables, as I mentioned earlier, have been installed on Swarthmore Road. They replaced 4 speed humps. There is a fire station on Swarthmore Road, and it is a primary emergency route. It also has no curb and gutters, so speed cushions were not appropriate on Swarthmore. In addition to that, there's no sidewalk. This is definitely a road that people like to walk on. It's also a cut through for drivers between Garrett Road and Hope Valley Road. So we need to find a way to make both pedestrian safe and also make accommodations for emergency vehicles. And so speed tables were the solution in this case on Swarthmore Road. Another newer type of project we're installing on Lawson Street is a raised crosswalk. These are not that common. I can't think of any other examples besides the ones we talked about on Markham Avenue. This Lawson Street is a primary emergency route. It's also on Go Durham Route 8. There's also a lot of pedestrian traffic here. This is located. Speed hump will be installed between the NCCU bookstore and the stadium. And it will be completed as part of our 2023 street resurfacing project that's being managed by our Public Works Department. And I believe there's a lot of coordination between Leslie Tracy and the fire department on this improvement. And this is also sort of a pilot project of sorts, given the size of the street. Also, as part of our 2023 city resurfacing project, we are looking at some opportunities to add traffic calming on Enterprise Street in the South Side neighborhood. This may include paint and post bulb outs, kind of like the ones I showed you on Birch Avenue. It could include neighborhood traffic circles. Also discussed was a raised crosswalk at the American Tobacco Trail crossing. There was a neighborhood meeting in February with our consultant and Leslie with the Southside neighborhood. I think our consultant was there and Leslie Tracy was there to collect comments and feedback. And I believe plans are to be completed in July, so they're ready to be incorporated into the resurfacing in the Southside neighborhood. Also going to construction this year are our phase 1 neighborhood bike routes. And there are, in some cases, there are traffic calming elements that we were allowed to include on these neighborhood bike routes. There are some that we could not under the terms of our CMAQ grant, which I will get into if you want me to in the questions phase. But we were able to put some of these neighborhood traffic circles in, or they will be installed this year as part of neighborhood bike routes phase 1. Those are shown in pink, and this example here is at the intersection of Otis Street and Pico Street behind the NCCU campus. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about future traffic calming, whether those be CIP requests, planning, and then I'll look at some potential policy updates and some examples of programs from other cities, focusing mainly on Raleigh's example. This is a FY24 capital improvement plan request submitted by Leslie Tracy, speed reduction on emergency and transit routes. We'll be looking to install traffic calming improvements on Main Street, Chapel Hill Street, and Chapel Hill Road. Beyond that, I don't have too many details on what that may include. And this is a proposal. This is not yet funded. We'll find out later this year. It would start in late summer, and there's estimated costs of about $400,000. We also, as I sort of touched on earlier, there are a lot of recommendations for traffic calming on neighborhood bike routes that we were not able to fund under our CMAQ grant under Neighborhood Bike Routes Phase 1. And so there's an opportunity to design and construct many of those traffic calming measures. And they include, maybe in some cases, traffic circles, diverters, partial closures, speed humps, edge islands, and chicanes. The diverters and partial closures don't really control speed, but they do control volume of vehicles. And then we touched on the other ones earlier, like speed humps, edge islands, and chicanes. Those were definitely not permitted as part of the CMAQ grant. And those are shown in purple, the purple triangles on this map. We are also planning to update our bike walk implementation plan later this year. None of this is really ironed out yet, but there are some possible updates we'll make that are related to traffic calming. First of all, we'll update our intersection recommendations. We've completed a lot of those intersection recommendations from the existing bike walk plan. So we have an opportunity to look at more of those or make more extensive improvements on some streets than we had previously. There's also an opportunity to identify a larger network of bike boulevards, sort of building on our neighborhood bike routes concept plan. So a bike boulevard is a neighborhood bike route, also known as a neighborhood greenway. And I was just calling it boulevards here just to say, well, maybe we can just find some local shared streets where we're going to prioritize bicycling and walking. And maybe some of those streets can be ones that are eligible for traffic calming of some sort, so that we can get vehicles down to a speed that's safe around other people who are walking or bicycling. Another idea I was thinking about was just doing short-term traffic calming recommendations on streets that may have medium-term sidewalk or shared use path projects. So in a lot of cases, we have many streets that need sidewalks, and even ones that are high priority, but the sidewalk may not be there, or the shared use path may not be there for 3 to 5 years. So how do we keep people safe in that interim? And so those may be streets where could be elevated in terms of their priority for traffic calming measures. Touch a little bit on Vision Zero, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with. There's a Safe Streets for All grant to develop a comprehensive safety action plan, regional improvements to reduce and eliminate fatal crashes. This will be led by the MPO. Durham is a participating municipality. Also related to Vision Zero, as we're all familiar with, there was a budget request from the Transportation Department and Councilman Caballero for a Vision Zero coordinator full-time position, and they would support this Safe Streets for All grant and help lay the groundwork for a City of Durham Vision Zero plan. Another update we can make is to the traffic calming guidelines that we've been discussing. There's no immediate plan to make this update, but it's certainly needed. There is a need for more traffic calming tools to reduce dangerous speeding on a wider variety of streets. For example, speed cushions are not currently in our traffic calming guidelines and should be in there. There's also a need to start traffic calming, traffic calming concerns, and then define the best measure to address speeding on that street. Right now, I think a lot of people, we may channel them towards speed hump requests, which may not be the solution on their street and may be rejected when there may be a more appropriate measure that we could use. So just broadening and using our whole toolbox and adding to that toolbox is the idea here, so that we can use more of these tools on more streets and respond to the growing number of requests that we have every year for traffic calming. And some of these ideas are just informed by looking around at what other cities are doing. So I looked at Raleigh, I looked at Cambridge, Massachusetts, Vancouver, Washington, Nashville, Tennessee, a lot of different cities that had traffic calming programs, and just looked at them, and they were all just more broadly asking people to submit an application for traffic calming. And then they are evaluated by a number of criteria, whether there's speeding on the street, whether there's a sidewalk, whether there's a lot of destinations people are walking to, different criteria like this, and they're scored. In Raleigh, there's an eligible list of streets, like 9,200, I think, every year is generated, and then a short list, and then staff at the city of Durham will work with the top 10 to 20 neighborhoods to, in a project development process, to look at what traffic calming measures might be appropriate on their street, and getting buy-in from the residents. We'll have a preliminary design meeting, a final design meeting rather, and then residents will vote on it with a ballot, and if it's approved, it will be presented at the city council and approved for construction. There were 19 of those projects approved last year, and they'll be going to construction this year, and they do include a wide variety of traffic calming measures like speed humps, cushions, traffic circles, medians, pinch points. I know this is probably a little bit hard to see, but this is a Kaplan Drive in Raleigh, where they are going to be installing neighborhood traffic circles, some pinch points, and some speed cushions. So wide variety of different traffic calming measures that are most appropriate on this street to slow down cars. And so looking beyond just speed humps. I won't spend too much time on this one, but we might cycle back to it if people are interested. But I noticed that when I was looking at Vancouver, they were also indicated how things were funded and what that funding amount was. And that's another thing to note here, is that a program like this one in Raleigh, or the one in Vancouver, there's not currently the staffing for that, and it's not clear that there's currently the CIP funding for that. So that would be something we would need to request if this is a direction that the city wants to move in. And I'll stop for questions.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Brian. That is, yeah, a lot of interesting stuff in there. So just right off the top, I think we'll go straight into questions. Paul on the Q&A asked, how much does a traffic calming guidelines update cost? I guess
that's a good question. It might not cost that much. All things considered, it's just not. I didn't want to indicate that it was like forthcoming this year or something like that. But so it's the cost of the traffic calming, of updating the policy, is not necessarily what would be expensive. More broader overhaul and having staff, going out to 10 to 20 neighborhoods per year and designing traffic calming measures, that would be, the process or program behind that policy update might be the more expensive part. But just updating the policy to include speed cushions and establishing those policies, I don't think that would be too expensive. I just didn't want to give people the impression that that update was happening in the same way, for example, that we are certainly updating the bike walk plan later this year, but there's no immediate plan to update the traffic calming guidelines, although there's a clear need.
A couple chat messages. I also know, I think the people who aren't, what are they called? The attendees who aren't the panelists can't see the chat. So Ideal just mentioned that this all brings back conversations I had during our shared streets project. And then Javier asked, can you come to City Council and give us this presentation, Brian?
Wow, elevated. I'd love to, yeah. I'll scare the hell out of Pete. Yeah, this would be a great trial run for presentation to city council. And
Just real quick, because we had so many comments around this from advocates. So, I only put the Vision Zero coordinator in. There's a lot more that's been asked for. And so while I will just say we're later in the process around the budget, it's something that we do need to think about as we think about CIP projects and potential bond and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be the only council member who has this somewhere in their head potentially, right? Like living there with the thousands of other things in there. It would be great for my colleagues to also see this.
Yeah, I'd love to do it. And it's definitely responding to the type of resident feedback we're hearing more and more and more of. And it may not be I need traffic calming. It may be just in the form of I need a speed hump or I need a sidewalk, but they're all kind of talking about the same thing in a lot of cases. And if we took a more broader, holistic approach to traffic calming and let them define the concern, and then we work together to determine the solution for their street, if we have the staff and the sort of capital funding behind that, we may be able to be more responsive to a lot of residents. Because I also have to tell a lot of residents that a sidewalk will not be on their street, even if it's funded for 2 to 3 years, which is not fun. Email or phone call to have. And in some cases, we can move a lot quicker with some of these improvements. But yeah, I'd be happy to share it with City Council.
Thank you.
And Ideals was talking about the shared streets. I think the Spruce and Eva neighborhood traffic circle might have been installed as part of that effort.
Yeah, there were several, but some of them may have been altered or disappeared with the road smoothing. What's that called? The repaving of the roads that happened throughout Durham and definitely in East Durham, which we are so thankful for. Oh my God, I've never had an Andrew Avenue so smooth in my life. It's amazing. But we did one at the intersection of Maple and Taylor.
Okay.
And Eva and Spruce. There were a few along Spruce. I want to say maybe one other one. There were some other curb extensions, but that were painted. And there was supposed to be some delineator posts put at the edge of those paintings and having crosswalks refreshed, but I don't think that happened, which is probably a good thing because we were with the repaving, the smoothing. I want to call it the smoothing.
Surfacing or the
smoothing campaign. What was it called? What did y'all call it? Resurfacing. With the resurfacing, a lot of that kind of just got undone, and it was never. We can't obviously we need more resources if we were going to reinstall it and then have the delineator posts and the crosswalks refreshed. So, especially at the intersection of Taylor and Hyde Park. So anyway, yeah. But what I noticed is that people really, and at Benjamin, there was a traffic circle. And I noticed that people really, really loved the traffic circles because it gave them a break from some of the speed. But also what I thought was cool is that you don't get the emergency services and fire departments and stuff upset because if they need to just go through the darn post, they will. And there's such a cheap thing to replace. So it helps a lot. But that's a observation from that time. Some of the stories those neighbors were telling us about their traffic calming needs were pretty compelling, pretty overwhelming in terms of how people completely altered the way they interact in their community, whether it's crossing the street to a family member's house, learning to ride a bike, walking, to another community amenity, that people were not just avoiding, cars in terms of frequency, but speed that rendered cars running into people's homes, yards, trees, flipping over. And it was just nuts, the number of stories we got from people who participated in that series of meetings.
Yeah, it's probably some
small neighborhood streets. That's the part that was alarming to me. I think if I was on Alston Avenue and heard that kind of stuff, that'd be one thing, but I was hearing stories from people on streets as narrow as Benjamin Street or Alma Street, that we're seeing this stuff happen on such tiny, tiny, narrow roads that have parking on both sides. So it narrows the field of view, mature trees, the whole 9 yards. And yet they were still dealing with cars that were speeding so quickly that they were running into other cars or flipping over.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good feedback that did Dale work on that or Evan Tenenbaum?
Yeah, Dale, Ellen, Nicholas, I believe, came out and did some stuff.
Right, yeah.
And Neighborhood Improvement Services came and made sure that whenever we were working in the streets, they had us safely blocked off with English is not working for me today. I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's a lot of good feedback. I remember just talking to Dale about that we could use if we decided we wanted to do more around traffic calming that was collected as part of that process. And some of these traffic circles that may have been removed will be installed as part of the neighborhood bike routes phase 1. I know on Taylor Street, for example, which can be really dangerous right in front of the school east of Alton Street.
I think what got people really excited is that once the traffic circle was painted, like the actual circle, the neighborhood being able to come out and paint a design that they had approved, like an artistic rendering, really helped people to feel like this is my circle. So what y'all don't know is that for at least a year after the one on Benjamin was installed, if there was ever a post, like a delineator post that was damaged or down or in any way not looking the way it should, Mr. Robinson would call me expeditiously. So I had to teach him how to use Durham One Call to report it there so that they could have a ticket and trace the request. So but yes, the neighbors thought I was the transportation lady who could wave a magic wand and bring delineator posts back to the neighborhood.
The transportation lady. Yeah, and I think when Leslie met with the Southside neighborhood, art was something that they were asking about, and maybe that's something that could be incorporated here into neighborhood traffic circles if they're installed on Enterprise or some of the surrounding streets.
Brian, there was. Oh,
yeah, you got it, Hannah.
I was going to say there was another question in the chat. Scott asked, does Durham ever use the your speed signs that show a car's speed versus the speed limit? And then also just a note for the time, we're 10 minutes behind, but I think we're good.
We do have those signs. I know that they rotate around wherever the latest traffic where the less traffic speeding concern is, which is usually somewhere like Duke and Gregson. So that's the city has limited ability to act. So you'll often see it on streets like that. I don't know how many there are. It's sort of coordination between Leslie, our operations staff, like Leslie, and I don't know where one of the other departments is, but I know I think there's 2 or 3 of those your speed signs that are moved around the city based on wherever we have the latest complaint about speeding, which are often on some of the streets where we can't do anything without additional cooperation from NCDOT.
Right. Thanks, Brian. Another moment for if anyone has any questions for Brian and the team. I appreciate it. I think just to Javier's point, I just want to reiterate it. I think, there's a lot of this focus on Vision Zero, but I just want to remind us that traffic calming is part of Vision Zero. These are, intertwined deeply, obviously, all these ideas. And I think sort of using the momentum we have, focus on sort of the recent incidents and the push for the Vision Zero coordinator. Hopefully we can use that to also propel more work on traffic calming here. And just, let us know if we can do anything to help. Yeah.
And traffic calming can be done on bigger streets. We're mainly talking about neighborhood streets, but a lot of this is also applicable in downtown streets. As we're well aware, you can get hit inside the loop and it can be bad. And so some of these are also applicable there and on some NCDO streets. If we can find a way to work more productively with NCDOT all around those issues, because those are the streets where we do see the most fatalities are the large streets and the ones owned by NCDOT. But there's a lot we can do here to prevent dangerous speeding on our local streets, and also just make them more comfortable for walking and bicycling in general, just living on.
And I'll know just the bike walk implementation plan sounds like something we can definitely also discuss at our committee meeting sometime next couple months. It'd be interesting to do.
Happy to do it.
All right. If I don't see any other questions, we'll move on. Thanks so much again, Brian, and the whole Durham transportation team for putting that together. All right, let's move on to committee reports. Yeah, thank you. Suzanne with Triple E.
Hi, good evening again, everybody. So yeah, Triple E met last week and have a few updates. One, I apologize, it's been busy at work, so I haven't had a chance to reach out to Pi and DevRev yet, but we do have a proposed date for our combined meeting for April. So I'll just put it out here now, and maybe we can continue the conversation offline, or it's a quick decision. April 13th was the proposed combined meeting time with Pi, DevRev, and Triple E. So I guess when we get to Pine Dev Ref, y'all let us know if that seems like a good fit. If not, we can communicate offline and figure out another date, maybe, and try that out for our April meeting. And then we talked about some other updates as well. So one was around partnership follow-ups. We've been following up with the bike walk manager, disability rights, and Durham Public Schools, and we'll continue to engage them in some upcoming meetings. So stay tuned for that and invitations around that as well. We decided as part of the committee to follow up with some of the community members who've been bringing public comments to the group so that we can have opportunities to connect with them outside of the more formal meetings. We've reached out to Aspen around the connectivity and are planning to meet with Aspen. And I see some of Aspen's neighbors have already responded to the poll as well. So Aspen's engaged neighbors, and so we'll find a date to go out there and kind of do a neighborhood walkthrough with them, hear some of the concerns. Obviously not promising that we can do anything necessarily, but maybe we can help elevate some of these concerns, learn a little bit more about them outside what was shared at the meeting, and possibly do something. So no guarantees, but certainly an opportunity to go learn, listen, and walk with them a little bit more around some of the concerns that were brought to the group, and hopefully keep troubleshooting with them. Also reached out to Tricia Smar around the traffic calming as well. I know she's really busy, so hoping to hear back from her as well, and possibly going out to, again, meet with the community members there who are interested and just learn a little bit more about some of the concerns there. So our committee's decided that we'd like to kind of continue doing that. We're going to test it out with these folks, and then as we have more folks bring public comments, we'll explore that. Other, obviously, BPAC members are welcome to join us if you're interested in joining the one with Aspen around the connectivity aspects. Let us know. We can send out the doodle poll that's circulating right now to identify some dates in April, hopefully. And then we are going to work on the walk audit that happened at the retreat and try to draft a report by our April meeting. So we'll keep that, very concise and hopefully some good recommendations based on what you all discovered. And so we'll bring that back to the April meeting as well. And then a question we had for folks, and it's come up in our previous Triple E meetings, is do we feel like it is worth the effort to develop print and go place in some public spaces, such as public libraries, bike shops, et cetera, about advertising BPAC meetings, just in general, and when to join us, and to make it a little bit more catchy in terms of, what if they have any specific concerns or issues they'd like to bring to the group or just want to come listen. But we were thinking about doing some outreach that way just to help community members learn a little bit more about what BPAC is and what the commission is, and coming, and that those are available to everybody. So I'll put that out there and we can hold on it for a bit, but just want to get people's feedback. We certainly can try it out. It doesn't hurt to try it, but there also, I think, is a listserv that was discussed at the PI meeting, and maybe we can learn a little bit more about that as well, about the city of Durham, and has, I guess, various listservs you could subscribe to. So yeah, we can talk about that more as well. And then I think everybody knows at this point, but some upcoming events. Earth Day is happening on April 22nd. And I think we're going to be partnering with Bike Durham. I'm pretty sure we are partnering with Bike Durham to do some bike valet. So we'll need some volunteers for that. And then we know that we have some funds left over from some of our, I guess, contributions from the city, from the county, from both, I can't remember, but so we are asking if folks would be willing to donate about $250 of those funds to Bike Durham for an upcoming event, the kickoff event for May 6th for Bike Month, for snacks, non-alcoholic beverages, things like that. And then they could be repurposed if they're not used, or maybe we could use some additional funds if they are used to help with some of the other upcoming events like the Bike to Work fuel stations and stuff like that. So I wanted to put that out and see if maybe we could get approval to spend our funds and support Bike Month with those. And then I know that Tyler's also looking into it as well and possibly helping to coordinate some sort of beginner bike ride, more comfortable bike ride for those, or not beginner, but maybe for those who don't go out and venture out on the trails or on the streets as much in May as well, so that we can maybe make it a more approachable event for those who are not out on the streets as often. And then we're going to check with Yakupo about some upcoming school events as well. Last thing is, wanted to check with everybody else too. This is another request. So we're doing the social media profiles, wanted to see if folks would be okay with, as we're posting those, if we could highlight you on the website as well. As you know, the city highlights folks, but I don't think the county does. So without the website, maybe we can just do our own highlights of all of our members, since you all are helping to complete some questions, and we could keep it simple, just like if folks feel comfortable. So I recognize you may not want your picture out there, you may not want other information out there, but it's your name, you know, some of the questions you answer in the social media profile in terms of like some of your favorite places to bike, walk, use transit, those kinds of things in Durham. So just in general at this point, just want to know if people are okay with that. And then obviously we can ask each person as we're developing those. And I think that is everything. Sorry, I wasn't unless anybody has anything they want to add to that.
Yeah. Thanks, Suzanne. I mean, I guess I just wanted to latch onto that, the $250 for the Bike Month kickoff for Bike Durham. I think that sounds like a great idea to me. Is that, yeah, I think maybe putting that to a vote, I guess, would be one thing we could do today, right? Are there any thoughts on that in terms of, I believe we had about $1,000. Am I wrong on that?
So after the food from the retreat, there's about 860. So pretty much the amount that y'all had last year, because they raised the amount this year to be 1,000 in total. So there is some budget for that.
Mm-hmm. We haven't had anyone take up the opportunities to go to conferences, right, or any of those events, I don't think. So that was another way that we could be using the money. But I like the $250. If anyone has any thoughts, feel free to bring them up. If not, we could get a motion for that.
This is Scott Carter. I'll move that we allot $250 from our fund to support Bike Durham in their activities with Bike Month.
Mike,
This is it. Go ahead, Mike.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Seeing ayes. All opposed? Not seeing, not hearing anything. All right. That is approved. Great. $250 for the Bike Month kickoff. And we'll discuss that in Earth Day a little bit also in the old business section. Just wanted to also throw in, I think it's a great idea to have more materials for BPAC, but yeah, maybe getting an understanding of what our listserv system is and making sure we have a good way to manage any incoming interest well would be, I think, a good thing, something we can talk about. Any other, anything else for Triple E that I shouldn't skip over there?
No, I think that was it. I think maybe if DevRev and Pi can just chime in when we get to them about the potential collaboration date.
All right, then let's move to that. Dan with DevRev.
Good evening, everybody. Again, I'm Dan Kleber, the chair of the Development Review Subcommittee, and just basic summary. I'm sorry, some people hear this every month, but what we do is we look at development plans, site plans, street closures that come in from that the planning department and other departments look at, but we look at them too. And we try to we mostly focus on development plans, but we try to comment as much as we can to make sure that policies about biking, walking, transit are being followed, and that the plan as, you know, when something gets developed, it's developed in the best possible way for those use groups. This month, I guess we tend to meet with the Plan Implementation Committee, and I guess we tend to meet sometimes the first and second Thursdays of the month. And I wasn't able to attend the first one, which was mostly plan implementation focused. Was it the second one where we focused on more development review type items? One thing we did is that we sort of finalized our comments about the transportation actions of the comprehensive plan. And I think there's an item in new business about that, Dennis, that we can touch on that then. And also we provided comments on 3 development plans. One was in the southwestern corner of the county off Farrington Mill Road. Another one was up at the corner of Infinity and Roxborough. And another one was RA 751, which is down on 751 south of Renaissance Parkway. So, you know, we typically, for those types of plans, we typically ask for room for, you know, on-road bicycle facilities, if it's appropriate. We ask, you know, if it's on a transit line, that they put in some kind of transit facility, like a bus stop. You know, we try to ask for things that the UDO don't specifically ask for, but are within the realm of our adopted policies. And so we did that. And I think that was from the development review portion. That was about it. I guess as far as like the dates, I guess, did you say the 13th would be the proposed combo, Suzanne?
Just the second Thursday of April.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that would just coincide with one of the dates that we've always had, I believe. What used to be the PI meeting. I guess and we don't have to discuss it tonight, but I guess my one concern is if we'll be able to get everything done in one meeting. Just a thought, if kind of like what we've done with development review and PI, we've sort of we have, you know, one meeting, whether it's the first or second Thursday, but then we have sort of a spillover meeting. Like, so if we need additional time, we can meet. If we don't, then we don't. So that's just something that I'm wrestling with. I'm just afraid that we could have a month, but there's just lots for all 3 committees to cover, and we may not have time to cover everything. Not that that would happen every month, but it could happen. So that's my only suggestion.
Yeah, Dan, I totally hear you on that. I feel, did we maybe talk about having some of it be joint and then we go into breakout rooms for some components of our different meetings?
Yeah, I think so. I think the idea, which we can discuss it here as well. It's relevant. The idea is to have maybe the first, 15-20 minutes joint to see if there are any sort of communication that needs to happen across, or like any resources we can share. But then for the majority of the time to be spent in a breakout where you're doing your meetings as usual. That doesn't, just the nature of being near each other, I'm sure it'll take longer anyways than it would otherwise. But so a second meeting time, a tentative slot for a second meeting might make sense, even if not all 3 committees end up needing to go to the second meeting.
Yeah, I forgot about the breakout feature. I don't know if I've tried that in Zoom in a while, but yeah, that might be something we could try it for one meeting next month and maybe expand it to 2 later on.
We could we can discuss this offline, but yeah, DevRev and Pi could also hold the first Thursday meeting if you have a lot you want to cover next month, and then the second Thursday could be the one that Triple E joins for as a trial run. Just there's some optionality there that we can.
Okay, yeah, that's I haven't had a chance to see what we might be talking about in April, but yeah, that's an option.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move to Mike, and we can sort of shore this up as well with him. Mike Norman.
Yeah, I didn't know, Mike. Did you want me to just read off the summary?
Yeah, well, I had some minor surgery this morning, and I'm having trouble putting more than 3 words together. So if Dan would continue.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I just this summary Mike provided was that it sounded like it was a pretty busy meeting. I wish I was there. They had 11 attendees, including 3 people from the community. And they spent a lot of time talking about two crashes. I guess one being the bike crash on Main Street, if I'm not mistaken. But there was also some time spent talking about pedestrian access to Hope Valley Elementary. And I think a local person named Brittany had some good ideas on how to move that forward. And then another person who attended listed specific locations where trails have issues, mostly the north part of Durham. And I guess there was, I guess people asked Dennis to, kind of revisit use of social pinpoint to capture public comments. So that was a summary I had. Unfortunately, like I said, I wasn't there, so I don't know, Dennis or Mike, if there's anything else.
Yeah, the social pinpoint was just, I think we just had a lot of good public comments then, and folks that came in, and we just wanted to have a way to track that. I think we're talking about and thinking about ways we can sort of triage and make sure that at least on our end, even we have an understanding of like what the public comments are that have come in, and so that we're not just sort of dropping them or forgetting about them 6 months down the line, even if we don't have immediate action that we're able to take. So that was some of the discussion, but yeah, a lot of other good conversations there.
Okay.
Yeah, anything else?
That was all I had for the plan implementation and evaluation committee.
Thanks,
Let's
Dan.
move.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. And I'll catch up on the chat real quick. Ideal mentioned that that there's some resources from the Collaborative Sciences Center for road safety. The webinar and the links at the end of the message are pretty helpful to the topic Brian just shared and other advocates who spoke at the budget hearing last night. So there's a link there if you those want to check it out. And then Suzanne, just wanted to let Mike know that you still look super cool. All right, let's go to liaisons. Javier with City Council, please.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I don't have any big updates. I guess the item did get submitted on my end. Y'all wrote a letter in support. I don't know if anyone paid attention to our retreats, but there was a part of, I don't remember which day, I think day one, where council had to kind of talk through their own funding priorities. And so we kind of did a very quick facilitation of like what moves forward, what doesn't to be considered. That just means that like the city manager has to see if there's a way to do it, if that makes sense, versus like, no, we're not gonna do that. And the Vision Zero coordinator moved through in that phase. And also because it was a transportation department ask as well, usually those tend to get funded. So I'm pretty optimistic it will be included. I think obviously there's a lot more that needs to happen. But it's a good first step. And then I don't think I have any other updates unless anyone has any questions for me.
Sounds like very good. Thanks, Javier. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully one small step.
I'm sorry, one last thing. It doesn't really affect y'all, but we are planning on keeping buses fare free. That is a part. So overlaps with a lot of the work you're doing, but not.
Yeah, that's very important. Thank you. Very exciting. Is that indefinitely or just for the next year?
I mean, I think the plan is, how about this until there's 4 votes that say, no, we don't want to do that anymore.
Gotcha.
I don't think that there's any appetite on the current council to move away from fare free buses.
Great.
Will that include paratransit? Probably will.
I would think so. I'm not 100% on that, but yeah, I think that there's just a commitment to doing it. So.
Great.
Thank you. Heidi with the county commissioners.
Yeah, I really have nothing to update you on, except that Hannah did ask me, I think, or maybe it's even on the agenda, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it now. A definitive answer about, the sort of benefit issue between the city and the county, which I must admit, I feel really embarrassed about, and like my tail's between my legs as I talk to you all about this, but I don't have a definitive answer yet. I've raised this at 2 public meetings now, and definitely in general, I would say that my colleagues are certainly supportive of it and believe that standardization of benefits, perks make sense between the city and the county. We asked our staff to contact the city clerk's office to ask about the budget and to ask about, any other, what is the package of benefits? Does it include something else besides stipends, annual gifts, any sort of appreciation event, anything else? And what the budget for all of that looks like for the city anyway, so that we could try to standardize benefits across not just not just with you all with BPAC, but across all of the shared city county committees. I'm sure our staff will be coming back to us with some information about all of that soon, but we really might not have an official answer until the budget season, until the budget's approved. Maybe before then, but that might be when we make a final decision.
That's good to know. Thank you, Heidi. I appreciate you following that. Yeah, I think we'll keep an eye on it and just let us know if anything else develops. Yeah.
I'll keep dogging it, and I will be pushing for equal benefits all around.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, move on to Tyler with Duke.
Hello, y'all. Quick update tonight. I mentioned this at the Triple E committee, but I think I've mentioned on this meeting before that we are trying to get, Duke is trying to get an updated mobility plan that focuses on ways to integrate bikes and scooters and micromobility with the pedestrian environment. The kickoff meeting was supposed to be maybe a week and a half ago. There's been a slight delay, but we're back on track. I don't know when the new kickoff meeting will be scheduled, but my guess is within the next couple of weeks. So that is sort of going to be the big update as we'll start with that right away. I think the original plan when we started discussing it back in like November or December was hopefully, working all spring semester, getting some initial ideas out in front of students, faculty, and staff for the summer break. My guess is that we won't be able to get the timing to work out. It might be something where the consultant does a lot of the background work, and then we start soliciting feedback in the fall. But it does look like a project will be going forward for an updated mobility plan at Duke.
Interesting. Great. Thank you, Tyler. Then we don't have, or I guess we are about to get a new North Carolina Central University liaison. Looking forward to that. And then with the comprehensive plan, we're at some sort of final stages here. I think Ideal and Ed, are any updates on the comp plan that we should be aware of?
I think the online survey closed yesterday or today, and they're doing a second presentation on the plan. The planning department is doing a second presentation of the plan to the planning commission next Monday or Tuesday. They just wrapped up, the last round of community feedback. I'll share that principal planner Lisa Miller, who's been a key in the planning department's role in the whole thing, joined the Vision Insights Support and Advocacy Group on March 3rd, and shared information with that community and got some feedback about what's important to Durham's community of people who are blind and visually impaired, all related to the plan. And that was a really nice get together. Other than that, Adil, do you have anything to add?
No, your comments on the comprehensive plan are comprehensive. And the only thing I was going to add is that we are about to kick off and be underway for something transportation related, because transit plan isn't the only thing going on with transit. So bus stop formally referred to as bus stop optimization, but bus stop stabilization. So as we expand in Durham, and we've got like over 900 bus stops, and we've made some promises about timeliness of buses and how frequently they would come. So to make sure that schedules stay accurate and efficient, we need to look at our bus stop locations, as well as thinking about the dignity of the locations of the bus stops, how they can be built properly to meet some basic standards. And so I just wanted to take the time to insert a flyer into the chat. If you know people who ride the bus, we're having a kickoff meeting at the transit station, and folks can register to attend that. There'll be stipends for anyone who participates.
I also want to share, just kind of related. There's in the comprehensive plan policy statements, there is much to my happiness, policies leaning towards improving paratransit and modernizing paratransit, and consistent with that, there's a sort of ad hoc task force has been put into place, led by Brian Fahey of the planning department. I think Alan Beckman on the county side is involved as well, but they are going to be submitting a proposal out for, or seeking proposals to have some consultants work on plans to do exactly what we've been talking about for years, to consider other on-demand variations or options for paratransit, modernizing the scheduling apparatus so that people don't necessarily have to call 2 weeks in advance to get a ride somewhere. So there's some money that's going to come out of the transit plan directly into that, and that timeline is now that they're hoping to have a report by October addressing all the issues that are, or the scope of that proposal. So anyway, it's a big step forward, and could mean really some more dignified and efficient paratransit service for the people who rely on it.
That's great. Yeah, and Ideal reiterates that in the chat. This is such good news. Yeah, that's super important. I think we'll also touch on that just lightly on the actions from the comprehensive plan that we're going to look at in a moment. Let me actually share my screen just so that the folks who are not panelists can also see the flyer. We have a little bit of a little kind of glitch here. I couldn't really figure out how to get how to send an image to a Q&A if there's no queue. So this is the flyer, just to reiterate it, March 28th, 6, so that's next Tuesday, 6 to 8 p.m. And the number is 919-391-4843, and you can call or text them to register for the bus stop balancing study kickoff meeting. Okay. And yeah, so are there any other community updates? Not seeing anything. All right. So moving to old business, thank you, Heidi, for updating us on the sort of effort to sync up the benefits across the city and county. So I think we kind of have addressed that. We'll keep an eye on it and just keep it maybe an old business just so we don't forget about it and we can revisit it down the line. The bike valet for Earth Day, which is 4/23, so that's Sunday. Earth Day is 4/22, I believe, right? And then the Sunday is the Earth Day Festival. Hopefully we can have some volunteers. And I actually want to add here, May 6th is the Bike Month kickoff that Bike Durham is doing. And that, so we have just committed $250 to that. But we are looking for volunteers as well for that as well. So Bike Valet is one that's coming a little sooner, but just 2 weeks after that is the Bike Month kickoff. And we've been invited to have a table or a tent on behalf of BPAC. And I expect actually to be definitely at the Bike Month kickoff. I'm pending on the Bike Valet, but and so what I'm planning to do is send out a sort of just a survey. You can say you can do help out on one or the other or both, that'd be fantastic. I really encourage the folks on this commission to see if they can make at least one of these. I think our participation in these community events is, I think, a large part of what we as a commission provide. And then it's a great way, as Suzanne mentioned, to sort of connect with folks on the ground and bring more people interested in BPAC and get more people to make comments and find ways that we can help other local efforts out. So I'll leave it out here. Actually, if is there anyone who knows that they can make the Earth Day Festival on 4/23, April 23rd, to help out with the bike valet?
I'm pretty sure I could, and I probably, for some reason, I kept thinking it was actually on that Saturday, and I'm signed up for something else that day, but now that it's on the 23rd, I'm pretty sure I can help.
Good. I was just checking the dates again. Yeah, I think it's the bike valet, or sorry, the Earth Day Festival, when we're hopefully gonna do the bike valet, is on Sunday, the day after Earth Day. But the bike month kickoff is a Saturday. That's on the 6th. Just FYI. Suzanne, that'd be great. I think I'll be able to do it, but I'll have to double check. But I'll send out something this weekend, just because I know we're coming up on it. So, but hopefully folks can fill it out by next week sometime, and we can give Bike Durham some numbers for who they can expect on our side. Anything else that folks want to add about the Earth Day Festival? All right. The presentation topics. So at the bottom of the agenda, as always, there are a list of upcoming presentation topics, or options, I should say, for upcoming presentation topics. Anything that people want to highlight? I think this traffic calming one is the kind of stuff that I think we've been talking about it for a little while, and it's always a topic here at BPAC, so it's really interesting. But anything that folks want to hear more about, or also I invite the liaisons if they have suggestions for things that we should be keeping an eye on, or ask for presentations about.
I'll share something that we're exploring for Triple E, and Hannah brought it back to our attention. I think it's something we've looked at years ago, is the Healthy Mile Trail that Durham has. And I don't know that there's a ton of resources dedicated to it, but it might be something that BPAC, maybe we could take the other $500 to help, create a Healthy Mile Trail or something. But we were looking at having them come to Triple E, but if that's something we feel is relevant to the whole commission, we could table that and maybe invite that coordinator, project director, I'm not sure what their title is, but invite them to the full commission to share about that and see if that's something we want to explore. So I'll put that out there.
Could you, I don't know what the Healthy Mile Trails is, just a quick, if you wouldn't mind.
It's where they identify kind of a short segment, and I'm probably going to totally botch this. So Hannah, if you have a great overview, feel free to step in. And there's like painted decals you put on the sidewalk to designate kind of the markers along the way. And it's probably more than that.
Yeah. So the whole thing is to increase walking and health with Durham residents. And so it's through the Department of Health. Let me share my screen. They're really trying to expand the program. Can you all see my screen?
No.
Oh, there we go. Can you see it now?
It's coming, I think. Yep, I see it.
Okay, so they're really trying to expand the program. Amber Taylor, she just started with leading this program in July, and I went to one of their presentations, and it's really interesting. I believe there's about 6 or 7 of them currently, and basically the area just has to meet certain conditions and have lights, where there's sidewalks, at least 1 mile loop. And if the area matches all of those conditions, then they'll be able to designate it as a healthy mile. And it just requires volunteers to go out. They provide the tools and everything, and you spray paint on the ground these type of stencils that show, the route to be a healthy mile. So that's kind of just the gist of the program, but I know that they are trying to expand it, and I think there's a lot of areas that could really benefit from this. And it's something that, you know, BPAC could even go out there and maybe do one of these somewhere. So.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks for going through that. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm definitely open to it. Maybe we can have that as a sort of a good candidate. If you do end up reaching out to them, I think feel free to sort of sync up with all of us to make sure we can maybe just have them come to the full commission. On my end, I think just if we hear updates that come back from, I know we give a lot of feedback to like the transit plan and the comprehensive plan. So if there are ever sort of big updates on those, I always like to sort of hear about those as well. So, and if folks don't have something right now, but come up with ideas for what presentations could be in the future, just feel free to email the whole commission or me directly or Hannah. Happy to sort of have that be an open process for figuring out what presentations we bring in.
So this is Scott Carter. Something I would be interested in is this is the year of the trail, and we're now what, 3 months into it. I don't know what tangibly that's doing in Durham, what that means, and I'd be interested to know, does that mean there's, you know, activities or money for stuff, or, you know, basically it'd be great if somebody could kind of tell us what is happening with that's at our local level.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a good point. Maybe we can look at Hannah. I'll note that, and we can sort of figure out who might be the right person to ask that about. Suzanne, you had a hand up.
Yeah, I love the year of the trail. I have a feeling the response is it's really up to local people to input their local events, and it's kind of a state-run website from what I can tell. But I think it doesn't hurt to have people comment if there's other aspects they can share with us. But it's a cool concept, and the website they've done a nice job with. The other thing I was going to mention, and maybe it's too soon, but it'd be pretty cool to have that transportation planner that was recently hired for Durham Public Schools to come and speak with us.
That's a good point. It also relevant to one of the points or line items here in the possible topics is the bike ped access to the schools and to the new ones, but also we've had public comments about related to getting to schools, walking and biking. That's going on. Any other ideas for presentation topics?
For the year of the trail, I do know that Durham Parks and Rec is doing programming around it. I haven't been talking with them that much about it, but I think it would be good to kind of hear all of the activities they have planned. I know there's an event that they're planning, a pretty large one in June. And so it would be good probably to learn more about it and see if BPAC could be involved with some of that. So.
And yeah, Javiera, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say, I think they got a presentation at DOST in January or February. I was trying to find the presentation so that I could share the link, but I remember I'm the liaison there too. And I remember someone coming and talking about that. And then additionally, the open space planner position was also, you know, so maybe worth having them come. That's, you know, intersects with DOST more than BPAC, but there is a lot of overlap. And just for some background, it's just basically the county already has something, right? They already have this position, basically is identifying county land that serves for open space, but and Heidi can correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of that's around kind of buying things that help with the watershed, right? Because of it's an easy way to help water quality control is to just buy up land that really is sensitive and keep it not developed. But the intention of the city was to really identify things more in the urban core so that a lot of our access to open space or you know, some of these preserved places are out in the county. And so unless you have a car, even on a bike, it's going to be a haul to some of these places. And so it was just a way for the city to think about, are there spaces closer in that are worth preserving and keeping as open space with the thought around, you know, equity and demographics. And so that position was hired. And then I think we put $100,000 worth of seed money into a fund with the hope of growing that over time. So we now have a person who can identify it, but then you need to have the money to be able to purchase it.
It's good to know. Thanks, Javier. Heidi mentioned in the chat, there is a county probably working with city group planning activities for the year of the trail. A member of the county open space division recently brought forward a resolution and mentioned some events and dropped a couple links. And if folks in the attendees want to make a question, I can drop a link in for them as well. But you mentioned DOST earlier, and I think just it reminded me, I think we're hopefully going to have a DOST liaison coming, and we might have some more opportunities to communicate across those two commissions between us and DOST. So maybe we'll talk more about it in the future, Hannah. I don't know, but just something for people to keep in mind if they're especially interested in the open space and trails type work. Might be an opportunity to go to DOST meetings and be sort of our BPAC representative there, it sounds like.
And the RAC, there is a consistent RAC person at DOST. So RAC is the Recreational Advisory Commission. There's lots of y'all, sorry.
Yeah. A bunch of acts. Well, I guess OST is different. Okay, thanks all. Anything else on the well, on that or other presentation topics? Okay. All right, moving to new business. Yeah, I think we'll get through this. So the comprehensive plan action items, I'll share my screen, make sure I have it up here. Yeah, okay. This was just for folks, sorry, can't do two things at once here. All right, for folks who aren't aware, this is sort of the final phase of the comprehensive plan was to add actions to the policies, and they were divided by section, and transportation was one of the sections. I won't read through this because I think every commission or every committee has had a chance to review it, and for the sake of time. And I sent it out a few hours ago, and pretty much for those who are looking at it, in green are replacements or additions, so wording changes that we want to do. We've indicated in red things that we wanted to remove, and blue were some comments or some questions for further clarification. So in addition to the 24 actions that were suggested or are in the draft comprehensive plan, we suggested 5 more, I believe. Yeah, or 6 more. And thanks to all the committees who Triple E, PI, and DEV have all contributed to making these comments. And we know the period was closing yesterday for public comments, so we sent this ahead of time, just so that they were aware. And we'll have a discussion later this week, I believe, regarding these action items, just so that they get clarity. The team gets clarity on what BPAC's recommendations are. So we'll take any thoughts from today to meeting later this week. I believe tomorrow, actually, right?
Yeah, it's tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. So for those who've had a chance to review it, or if there's a request for me to read through it, I guess I'm also very open to that, but open to discussion about the action items and the suggestions that BPAC is presenting, with the hopes that we'll get to vote on this today.
I think you also sent it out on the 10th. That was after the Triple League meeting?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Was it after? Yeah, in any case, yeah, that's right. We've had a couple sort of iterations on this, yeah. If there are no, can't see the chat and share at the same time, but just let me know if there are any comments. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to if we can move to vote on. Have a motion to vote on this.
I just wanted to clarify what I did with point 11. The way it was originally written, it just felt like it could be interpreted in multiple ways. And so my intent with putting to reduce the need for and then adding a comma was just to try to make it clear what the request was. That, it's a review and revision with the hope that, it will lead to less parking rather than something else that would come after a review and revision.
Thanks, Tyler. Yeah, I'll read it just real quick. Review, the point 11 is review and revise the Unified Development Ordinance to reduce the need for off-street parking requirements, including removal of minimum parking requirements where possible. And then so Tyler added to reduce the need for it. There was a little bit of ambiguity. I noticed that after you pointed it out of, revise it to do what with off-street parking. It wasn't exactly clear. So I appreciate that. Yeah. I think there's some of these comments are kind of in line just to make sure that there's an opportunity in 5 years or 10 years to look at this and say, what did they mean? We don't want that sort of issue happening. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Dennis, this is Ed.
Yeah,
I'll take you up sort of partially on your offer. Can you just read the 5 new ones?
Yes, of course. Yeah. And I'll read the 5 new ones and I'm happy to sort of dive into the meatier other ones as well. Just a couple sort of bigger ones. So the 6 new ones, 25 is the number. Develop a plan for consistently implementing traffic calming features and provide funding to implement them. 26, provide a more detailed corridor plan for bicycle facilities. Require new developments to implement adjacent portions of this plan. And this should include off-street infrastructure where appropriate. 27, updates to the place type map should reflect the priorities of Durham to make its communities more walkable, bikeable, and accessible by transit. 28, there should be public visits from city officials to sites of crashes with major injuries and deaths involving pedestrians and cyclists. These visits should include a memo that describes how similar tragedies can be avoided in the future, a review of the street design at the site, and a budgetary provision to implement recommended design changes. 29, expand the Vision Zero program to achieve the goal of eliminating all traffic-related deaths and injuries. 30, research, evaluate, and implement emerging mobility technologies and systems such as bike share, electric bikes, and other micro-mobility hubs. Those are the new points. Yeah, of course. Yeah, partially filling in just a couple things that we thought weren't directly addressed in the actions, and some that were addressed in the policies but didn't have corresponding actions. So it's hard to catch everything, of course, or be 100%, but I think that was a good effort there. I'll highlight one other point just because I think it was sort of the one we spent the most time on in PI and DevRev was point 20, which says expand use of the sidewalk payment in lieu program and explore payment in lieu options for other transportation improvements to apply in development applications. Complete regular updates of payment in lieu fees for transportation improvements. We wanted to scratch that out and do a sort of significant modification. Our comment is remove this action. This is a comment, not a changing the wording yet. Remove this action. Payment in lieu should be minimized and limited to not possible to construct situations only. We've seen multiple instances where payment in lieu infrastructure never gets built. We should, however, implement a system for new developments to contribute to transportation improvements. An alternative action suggestion, and then this is what we suggested, to replace point 20. Reduce the usage of the payment in lieu program to scenarios where implementation by the developer is not possible, and require payment in lieu to be accompanied by a project design and implementation using the payment in lieu funding within 6 months of the payment in lieu. Amend the UDO to require new developments to contribute to transportation infrastructure and improvements. I'd say that was probably the biggest, and the one Tyler pointed out. Most of these are smaller, just sort of adjustments, but those are probably the biggest ones. And then, yeah, I read through the new ones. Any other questions or thoughts about these comments on the action items? Okay, I'm not seeing the chat, so just let me know if there's something in the chat I'm missing or a question. But what I'll do, yeah, go ahead.
Nothing was added to the chat.
Okay, great. Then I'm looking for if anyone's willing to make a motion to vote on this action. To approve the actions, the comments on the actions.
I move that we approve our comments on the actions.
I second.
All right. Thank you. And all in favor of approving our comments on the transportation, on the comprehensive plan transportation actions?
Aye.
Aye.
Seeing ayes. All opposed? Not seeing or hearing anything. All right. So approved. Great. Thank you all for that. As I said, tomorrow we're discussing this in person, so just we'll take this as kind of the starting off point for that discussion with the team. The new structure for committee meetings. I think we talked about that actually mostly already. In short, just to reiterate, we'll have a joint meeting for all three committees next month. And we'll have it, I think April 13th is the go-to day right now. And the structure will be joint to start with breakout rooms and the opportunity to switch between those breakout rooms as well. So if someone has a quick question for another committee, or if one committee sort of runs out of stuff to do, maybe not this month, but in future months, it is an opportunity to kind of share resources and get each other's questions answered more quickly. We'll trial this on April 13th, but I guess if Pi and DevRev want to do their own meeting prior, just to make sure they have the chance to do two meetings, they can. I think we'll discuss that offline. Any questions about this new structure? I also invite everybody, especially new members, to come and take a look. This will be a great opportunity. Whereas sometimes you have to commit to say, oh, should I go to Pi or DevRev or Triple E? It'll be the unification will help at least let those who haven't come to meetings in the past maybe say, well, I can come to this at least and take a look and see what's going on. And you don't have to stay, you don't have to participate, but just happy to have folks from and folks from the public and residents come and just hear and sort of put their 2 cents in. So hopefully folks will be able to make our April 13th meeting. We get a lot done there at those meetings, I'll say, for those who haven't had a chance to come or haven't come recently. Any questions about that? All right, putting you down to the wire, Hannah. Tell us about the Google Drive, if you don't mind.
See, isn't the time? It's good. It has a sense of urgency.
Especially when it's right next to your head. I see it.
I know. The whole time I'm just like, oh no. So I wanted to find a way to increase the communication and collaboration with BPAC. I think myself, I have a lot of emails just kind of going back and forth. And so I think having a Google Drive would really help with the collaboration, especially in the committee meetings. And so there actually already was a Gmail account created. It's durhambpac@gmail.com. And so I went in there and I created some folders on the Google Drive. And I think it would be really great if we could start using that and putting in the meeting minutes, the finalized letters, any type of contacts that we have that would be ideally go on to a listserv one day, and any type of I guess just things that we need to put on there to collaborate together. So I just wanted to hear if anyone had any objections to that, or any ideas around. If everyone's on board, then I'll send it out this week.
I'm excited for it.
Okay.
I'm excited for it. Maybe just double check with Dale. I swear, I know we've had this conversation in the past. I feel like there is a Google Drive somewhere. And maybe it's fine to just let it go and we start another one, but
no, it was his. So I actually went on and I tried to create a Durham BPAC at Gmail and it was like, oh, that's already been taken. And so I created one with a Durham BPAC1@gmail. And then I realized he created one before. So we'll be using his for it.
I think the thing that we'll also hopefully do is, just that opportunity to like go to one place to see the stuff that we're in progress on.
Exactly.
Rather than having to search your email for every, I know that these threads can get pretty messy. And not everything goes public onto the website. So, and if it does, there's a whole bunch of stuff there. So I think we're all ears for myself and Hannah in terms of what we can do to tweak the system to make it easier for us to sort of keep track of what's going on. But this is a good start. any other thoughts on the Google Drive from folks that might have ideas or objections, concerns?
No, I guess there could be subfolders in there for each committee as well that make it easier to access everything.
That's what I did, and I'm gonna have it where everyone has kind of ownership of it, so you can make edits if needed.
Okay, that sounds
for your
great.
committee.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks, Hannah. I appreciate that. The infrastructural stuff to me is I like that. So for the BPAC funds for BPAC speaker, Hannah, sorry, Suzanne, did you have something you wanted to add there? Or did we discuss some of that? No.
No, yeah, we reached out to see if that was really the conversation about the $860, and it sounds like I think food and drinks is more preferred at this point.
Yeah, at least for now. All right, great. Any other announcements or updates that we haven't already gone through? Okay, not seeing anything. That's all for me. Yeah, go ahead, Hannah.
The one thing I forgot to say at the beginning, we have a position posted for the city youth representative. So if you know any youths that would be interested in this position, tell them to apply. It's open until, I think it was April 13th is when the application closes. And yep, that's it.
What day was it? Sorry.
I think it was April 13th.
Okay.
Suzanne, was that correct? I CC'd you on that.
Yes, yeah, I think that's
Okay.
what I saw in your email, April 13th. Yeah, and thanks for that reminder. We reached back out. I don't know if any of you remember Camille, who came several times, and we had hoped that she would get voted on, and she didn't. We reached back out to her to let her know that there's another opportunity to apply for the city youth position and that there's a stipend associated with it as well. So we're hoping she'll apply again. We also couldn't remember, I think it was the young person's name was James that came from the high school, and we couldn't find it in our emails anywhere. I don't know if anybody had the email address or knew of that young man that joined us, I think in December. Was that the meeting? I think he joined us from, was it Riverside High School? I don't know if there's a way to go back into the log of any way to find contact information, or if anybody knew that person, but we were hoping to be able to reach back out to him as well.
Maybe we can check if we had a recording. I don't know who has that one, but
That's a good thought. I'll look into it. Maybe I'll ask Dale and see if he remembers, because I think he was at that meeting then.
yeah, that's good. The youth representative will be good to get somebody on consistently that can participate. That'd be great. Okay, so any other announcements or updates? Moving to communication priorities, the only ones I have, so I'll sort of reach out to all of us about who can volunteer for the Earth Day Festival or for the Bike Month kickoff. And maybe we can also see, so we have the April 13th meeting with the committee, a joint meeting with all the committees. Look forward to sort of an agenda for that. Any other communication priorities? We'll sync up maybe, Suzanne, about the Triple E, sort of if you get a chance to talk to the Healthy Mile Trail folks. Anything else in terms of communication? Okay, that's all for me. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for the timer, Hannah. That was useful. And thanks, Brian, for a great presentation. We'll talk more about that at our committee meetings.
Thank you. Good too.
All right.
Thanks, Sean.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah,
Good
good night.
Good night, everybody.
Now, y'all.